Imagine having the power to, like, print $1 billion on command, but doing it completely fractures your most loyal, nostalgic fan base right down the middle. I mean, that is the exact tightrope one major studio is walking right now.
Absolutely. And you might think the most valuable real estate in the world is like a beachfront property or a corner office in Manhattan. But when you step into the world of Hollywood blockbusters, the ultimate prize is just a date on a calendar.
Right, a literal date.
Yeah, which turns that calendar into this fiercely contested battleground. I mean, studios aren't just picking dates at random anymore. They are orchestrating these massive multi-year campaigns to basically box out their competitors and dominate the cultural conversation.
And that brings us to our mission for this deep dive today. We're unpacking a massive stack of sources for you, ranging from official Walt Disney Company press releases and deep in the weeds box office analytics, all the way to some incredibly intense Reddit fan debates.
The Reddit threads get wild, by the way.
Totally wild. And this is all because a few days ago, Disney dropped an absolute bombshell of a timeline for summer 2028. They officially locked in release dates for Lilo and Stitch 2 on May 26th, and then Incredibles 3 just 3 weeks later on June 16th.
Which is just a masterclass in corporate strategy, right? But it's also a story about creative reclamation. Today we're going to explore the sheer scale of the 2025 live-action Lilo and Stitch phenomenon, the tactical genius behind that 2028 rollout, and the major return of creator Chris Sanders.
Plus the expanded universe lore being teased.
Exactly. And of course, the fierce online debate about what family truly means in the modern era.
Let's start with the sheer gravitational pull of that chaotic little blue alien. Because the numbers we're looking at for the 2025 live-action Lilo and Stitch, which was directed by Dean Fleischerkamp, are honestly staggering.
They are massive.
Right. Like, we are talking about the first Motion Picture Association title of 2025 to cross the $1 billion mark globally. It pulled in nearly $420 million domestically and then just shy of $600 million internationally.
And that all kicked off with a record-shattering $183 million Memorial Day weekend debut.
It's insane. But, those raw numbers are impressive on their own, but the underlying metrics tell a much deeper story about consumer behavior. The box office analytics highlight a 2.90 theatrical multiplier.
Right, the multiplier.
Yeah, so break that down for me, because we see the term multiplier thrown around in industry reports all the time, but how does that actually work in practice?
Well, think of a multiplier as like the ultimate mathematical proof of word of mouth. It's really just the movie's total box office gross divided by what it made on its opening weekend.
Okay, simple enough.
Yeah, so if a blockbuster has a low multiplier, say around 1.5, it usually means this massive marketing push got everyone into the theater on Friday, but they didn't really like the movie.
So they told their friends to stay home.
Exactly. But a 2.9 multiplier means the exact opposite. People didn't just show up on day one, They kept coming back week after week, bringing their families, and just generating this sustained momentum.
Which totally explains that insane Labor Day weekend push I saw in the reports. The sources note that in its 15th week, Disney expanded the theater count back up to over 2,400 screens and saw a 4,000% increase in weekend revenue.
A fourth.
It really is. But this strategy wasn't confined to physical movie theaters, right? The Disney Plus streaming numbers show a massive explosion as well. The live-action film hit over 14 million views in just its first 5 days on the platform.
Yeah, with Nielsen recording over 800 million minutes viewed in a single week.
Just astronomical numbers.
And that streaming strategy is where we really see the halo effect in action. Disney's algorithm is specifically designed to capitalize on new theatrical momentum by instantly surfacing related legacy content.
So when the 2025 movie hit the platform, the user interface immediately pushed all the old stuff.
Exactly. The original 2002 animated film, the spin-off series, literally every related piece of content was forced to the top of the homepage.
And it worked flawlessly. The original 2002 animated film and its related content surged to over 640 million streaming hours globally. They essentially used a new blockbuster to resurrect a 2-decade-old catalog.
It creates this self-sustaining ecosystem. You aren't just releasing a movie anymore, you are activating a franchise flywheel. And if we connect this to the broader corporate picture, just look at Disney's track record over that period.
Right.
With Lilo and Stitch, Moana 2, Inside Out 2, and Deadpool and Wolverine, they delivered $4 billion films in the span of just 13 months.
Wow, $4 billion films in 13 months. It reminds me of the retail concept of an anchor tenant in a shopping mall. Stitch went from this quirky, almost experimental, indie vibe animated character back in 2002 to becoming this foundational pillar of Disney's modern financial strategy.
He really did.
He is quite literally holding up the tent alongside Marvel and Pixar.
Which perfectly contextualizes their aggressive play for 2028. They looked at that massive engagement across theaters, streaming, and merchandise, and they realized they had a persistent cultural phenomenon on their hands. They didn't hesitate for a second to stake their claim on the future.
Let's look closely at that timeline, because they aren't just releasing sequels here. They are attempting a complete hostile takeover of the early summer box office.
100%.
So Lilo and Stitch 2 is locked for May 26, 2028. They are specifically positioning it to dominate the Memorial Day weekend once again, repeating the exact formula that triggered that massive multiplier in 2025. Then, barely 3 weeks later, Incredibles 3 drops on June 16.
And we should note the major creative shift happening on the Pixar side of that equation. Brad Bird, the creative visionary who wrote and directed the first two Incredibles films, is returning to write the screenplay and produce.
Okay, that's huge.
It is, but he is actually stepping back from the director's chair. Peter Somm, the filmmaker behind Elemental and The Good Dinosaur, is taking over directing duties.
Interesting pivot.
Yeah, and they are reuniting the original heavyweight voice cast, so we get Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, and Samuel L. Jackson back.
Okay, I have to push back on this rollout strategy, though.
Let's hear it.
If you drop Lilo and Stitch 2 on Memorial Day, and then just 3 weeks later you unleash Incredibles 3, aren't you essentially cannibalizing your own audience? I mean, you have two massive, nostalgia-driven family films competing for the exact same demographic, pulling from the exact same wallets in the same month.
I get that. It definitely looks like a traffic jam on the surface. But to understand the genius of this move, you really have to zoom out and look at the broader competitive chessboard. Like, what are the rival studios doing?
Okay, what are they doing?
Well, on May 19th, 2028, which is exactly 1 week before Stitch returns, Universal is releasing The Mummy 4.
Oh, wow. Another massive nostalgia play targeting the millennials who grew up in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Precisely. The exact same demographic that grew up with the original Lilo and Stitch. Disney is executing a classic pincer movement here. They are betting that Stitch's genuine all-ages appeal will act as this counter-programming steamroller. Exactly. The goal is to capture the family demographic while simultaneously siphoning off the nostalgic adults who might have gone to see The Mummy. Stitch dominates for 3 weeks, basically boxing out Universal. Then, right as Stitch naturally begins to slow down, Incredibles 3 sweeps in as the second wave to capture the core June animation crowd.
Man, so it's not crowding their own market at all. It's a strategic blockade.
Yeah.
They're building this impenetrable wall across the early summer to ensure no competing studio can catch their breath.
That's the Hollywood calendar game right there.
But, as we know, circling a date on a calendar is the easy part. You actually have to deliver a movie that meets these sky-high expectations. And to ensure Lilo and Stitch 2 doesn't stumble, Disney realized they needed to pull a massive wild card. They brought back the architect.
They really did. They confirmed that Chris Sanders, the co-creator of the original 2002 animated film and the iconic voice of Stitch, is officially returning. And he isn't just coming back to the recording booth to do the voice. He is returning to write and direct the live-action sequel.
Okay, here is where this gets incredibly interesting from a production standpoint. Sanders has an untouchable pedigree in animation. After he launched Lilo and Stitch, he went over to DreamWorks. He kickstarted How to Train Your Dragon. He did The Croods.
Yep, massive hits.
Right. And he just recently directed the massive, critically acclaimed hit, The Wild Robot. The guy is an undisputed animation legend. But, I mean, does mastering animation automatically translate to directing a billion-dollar live-action blockbuster? The skill set seemed totally different.
It's a very fair question to ask, especially when hundreds of millions of dollars are on the line. What analysts quickly point out is that Sanders actually does have specialized live-action experience. He directed The Call of the Wild, starring Harrison Ford.
Right, which featured a fully CGI dog interacting with a human cast.
Which is the exact technical hurdle of a live-action Lilo and Stitch. I mean, Sanders has proven experience in blending CGI creatures with live-action human emotion. He understands the mechanics of eye lines, physical weight, and how to make a digital creation feel tangibly present in a physical space.
That makes sense.
But beyond the technical skills, his return is a highly calculated move by Disney to restore what the industry calls narrative authenticity.
Narrative authenticity. So They're basically signaling to the hardcore fan base that the original creator is back at the wheel, steering the ship.
Because while the 2025 film was an undeniable commercial success, it did make some sweeping narrative choices that alienated a vocal segment of purists. By bringing Sanders back as the writer and director, Disney is essentially promising the fandom that the sequel will deeply honor the original lore.
Which begs the question, if Sanders is returning to adapt the lore, what exactly does that lore entail? Because the 2025 movie definitely left some massive breadcrumbs for us to follow.
It did, specifically hidden in a brief user interface screen that sent Reddit communities into just an absolute frenzy of analysis.
I love how detail-oriented modern movie fans are. In the 2025 film, there is this scene where the alien scientist, Jumba, is scrolling through a digital interface. It is on screen for maybe a second or two.
I mean, can you miss it?
Literally.
Oh.
But fans paused the frame, enhanced the image, and found clear, fully rendered teases for other alien experiments. And these weren't just vague silhouettes, they were distinct character models.
The sources confirm the specific experiment numbers spotted on that UI screen. We've got experiment 624, which is Angel, experiment 625, known as Reuben, and experiment 627, which is an unnamed, highly volatile experiment with advanced destruction capabilities.
Now, experiment 624 Angel is the real heavyweight here. Disney even dropped a music video called Glitter Glide just to prep her introduction to the mainstream audience.
Angel's inclusion is a massive deal on two fronts. Narratively, she introduces a fascinating dynamic because she possesses the power to alter moral alignments through her singing.
Like, really?
Yeah, she can literally flip good experiments to evil and vice versa. That creates some complex emotional stakes. But financially, she is an absolute retail powerhouse.
Let's look at the mechanics of that merchandise machine for a second.
Market analysts point out that Angel drives immense lifestyle merchandising sales. I mean, walk into any major retail store or theme park right now, and her pink design is just as ubiquitous as Stitch's blue. She anchors an entirely separate demographic of apparel, accessories, and plush toys.
So, playing devil's advocate for a moment here, are studio executives simply packing this 2028 sequel with colorful characters like Angel and Reuben just to sell a wider variety of merchandise? Or is there a genuine story-driven reason to suddenly expand the roster and introduce all these other experiments?
Well, it's undeniably a lucrative merchandising move, there's no denying that, but the narrative foundation is entirely solid. We have to look back at the original 2003 to 2006 animated television series.
The cartoon series.
Exactly. The entire premise of that expanded universe was Lilo and Stitch tracking down the other 623 experiments that had crashed across the Hawaiian Islands. Disney is perfectly positioning Chris Sanders to adapt this pre-existing beloved television lore for the big screen. Those Easter eggs on the UI screen weren't just cynical fan service, they were a deliberate roadmap for the franchise's future.
So they have the roadmap, they have the original creator back in the director's chair, and they have billions of dollars in revenue backing them up. It sounds like a seamless transition.
Yeah.
But it is definitely not, because to build this massive 2028 sequel, Sanders has to inherit the specific narrative choices made in the 2025 film.
And those choices literally set the internet on fire.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
This brings us to the core cultural debate of this entire deep dive, which is the Ohana controversy. The 2025 live-action film made a major departure from the original animated ending, and it has fractured the fandom into two very distinct camps.
And just to be clear up front, we aren't taking any sides here. We're simply conveying the arguments and perspectives exactly as they appear in the source material. We just want to impartially break down what both sides are saying.
Exactly, because both sides make incredibly compelling arguments about what the core message of the franchise actually is in a modern context. In the original 2002 animated film, the entire emotional resolution is built around keeping this broken, grieving Hawaiian family together against all odds. Nani, the older sister, sacrifices her own youth and ambitions to fight the system and keep custody of little Lilo.
But in the 2025 live-action version, the ending fundamentally changes. Nani decides to pursue her dream career as a marine biologist, which requires her to move away, resulting in Lilo being watched by their neighbor.
And that single narrative pivot sparked fierce debates across social media, Reddit, and film critique circles. Let's unpack the defenders first. A significant portion of the fanbase argues that this ending actually perfectly aligns with the theme of Ohana and the concept of found family.
Their argument is rooted in a modern, culturally grounded interpretation of community care. The neighbor stepping in to watch Lilo proves that family isn't just defined by blood relation, it is the community you build. The village stepping up to help Nani achieve her dreams of being a marine biologist is seen as this beautiful evolution of the story.
Right, like sharing the load.
Yeah, it sends a message that a guardian doesn't have to sacrifice their entire personal potential and live in poverty just to provide a safe home, as long as the community is there to support them.
On the other side of the aisle, you have the critics. And they feel this modern interpretation fundamentally betrays Nani's core character and the original themes of the story.
The recurring critique found in the sources is that having Nani prioritize a career over physically staying with her vulnerable younger sister feels, and this is a quote from the sources, incredibly capitalist-minded.
Capitalist-minded.
Yeah. Critics argue it reduces Nani's inherent worth and the emotional climax of the story to obtaining a degree and a good job. They feel it strips away the unconditional, sacrificial love that made the original dynamic so powerful.
Right, the idea that her physical presence was basically replaced by a career goal. And the critics point out something else that is honestly hilarious, but it exposes a massive plot hole in the 2025 movie. They have a portal gun.
Oh my gosh, yes.
The characters literally possess alien teleportation technology.
The portal gun critique perfectly highlights the friction between grounded emotional drama and sprawling sci-fi elements. Fans correctly point out that Nani could have easily used the alien portal technology to attend school or study dolphins anywhere in the world and still instantly come home to Lilo every single night.
Like, sorry, Lilo, I have to move away forever to study marine biology, even though Jumba's intergalactic teleporter is sitting right there in the living room.
Pretty funny when you think about it.
When you break down the logic of the movie, the narrative conflict of her having to leave Lilo behind feels totally artificially manufactured. The sci-fi technology completely solves the commute.
It really does break the internal logic, but, if we synthesize this entire debate, it highlights the broader, almost impossible challenge of modernizing classic stories. The 2025 film altered the emotional stakes of Ohana to create a narrative about community support and personal fulfillment that resonated with a modern audience, which is a big reason why it made $1 billion.
Right.
But in doing so, it completely alienated the purists who viewed Nani's physical, daily presence as the ultimate proof of her love.
And now poor Chris Sanders has to step in and navigate that minefield. He has the monumental task of bridging this modern, highly controversial interpretation of the family dynamic with the classic, nostalgic sci-fi lore that fans are expecting to see on screen in 2028.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought to mull over as we wrap up our analysis today. If the defining, untouchable message of Lilo and Stitch is that Ohana means family, and family means nobody gets left behind, how does a massive multi-billion-dollar corporate franchise balance the intimate, grounded story of a broken Hawaiian family finding their way with the inevitable sprawling sci-fi spectacle of 625 other highly marketable alien experiments crashing to Earth?
Man, it is a massive storytelling challenge. Can you maintain the emotional heart of a family drama when you are simultaneously launching an intergalactic cinematic universe to sell $1 billion worth of Angel merchandise? We really want to hear your take on this. Did the 2025 movie ruin the core concept of Ohana by having Nani leave to become a marine biologist? Or is the community stepping in exactly what the concept of found family is all about? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments section. And if you are watching this deep dive on YouTube, please encourage the algorithm to push this out to more people who love analytical content like this by taking a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a video.
And for those of you listening on your favorite podcast platform, make sure to hit that follow button. It tells the platform's algorithm that people genuinely like what we are doing, it pushes it out to more people, and it ensures you never miss a deep dive.
So until next time, keep a close eye on that release calendar. Remember that Hollywood real estate is always shifting, and always keep questioning the media you consume. Thanks for diving in with us.